We are live. Awesome. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. This is our first official Alumni Chapter Leadership Hangout. Before we go through some of the questions, what I'm hoping we can do is have everybody just go around and introduce themselves. So why don't we start with Chris?
Hello, my name is Chris. I'm from Todd Chapter and currently the Leadership Coordinator for the Eastern North Carolina Alumni Chapter.
And Jeremy?
I'm Jeremy Tallman, President of the Greater Boston Area Alumni Association.
And Josh?
Hello, this is Josh Lazar. Currently the Vice President of Membership Development for the Central Florida Alumni Chapter, formerly the President.
And Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Goodman. I am the current President of the Capital Alumni Chapter.
Kate?
I'm Kate McConnell. I'm the former president and current volunteer leader for the New York Metro Area Alumni Chapter.
Kristen?
I'm Kristen Henson. I'm the current president of the Delaware Valley Alumni Chapter in Philadelphia.
And Ryan?
Which is the
So Ryan, you have a little bit of feedback, so I don't know if it's your mic or if you have headphones, but if you do, you might want to try to find some. If not, we might have you call in, but we'll see how it goes. So with that, I'm going to ask kind of the first pretty specific question. How do each of your, so in the national, in the alumni plan, there are so many meetings that alumni chapters are required to have. How do you guys handle your meetings? Do you have one a year? Do you have one a quarter? Do you have one a month? If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about how you kind of structure your general business for your chapter, because you each do it pretty differently. And feel free to jump in and kind of play off of each other.
Okay, I'll start. The NIMAC has 12 meetings a year. We do monthly. And the way that it really works, our e-board meetings are technically general business meetings. Everyone is invited. They don't usually come. So we often solicit feedback online, through emails and surveys.
I would say that Capital runs pretty similar. We don't do monthly. We usually do about quarterly meetings, and that generally is the e-board, but it is open to everybody as well. And then we do a lot of business from an online perspective in terms of voting and different things like that.
GBAA has gone to a meeting every month. We have a monthly dinner where we just kind of get together. The meetings aren't really that formal. We just kind of meet and chat, just kind of discuss what events we want to plan over the next month or two. And then every year we have our one major general meeting where we have elections and kind of the business end of things.
So the CFAC, we have two planned events every year. What they are, we do a holiday type party where that's mostly social but usually evolves into a formal meeting, either beforehand or usually beforehand. Every June we have our voting meeting where we usually, the last 2 years we've done card making, so doing crafts, and we usually do a little bit of social, plus we donate some cards to charity, and then we'll do the meeting either before that or after that, just depends. We do have a monthly brunch, and during brunch, any one of those brunches can evolve into not a formal specific meeting, but just talking about chapter business or Phi Sigma Pi life.
All right, the Eastern North Carolina Alumni Chapter, we hold our two constitutionally required meetings every year, about March and September. We'll send out amendments and nominations at least a month in advance to give everyone enough time. And then the exec will meet about monthly phone call or video chat.
DVAC used to have our meetings over a phone conference, but we just, a couple of years ago, we changed it to an in-person meeting. We do quarterly meetings. They're pretty laid back, and it's just basically what events we'd like to have for the future, and then afterwards the minutes are posted online on our Google group for the members that didn't show up to read and give feedback on. There's the one meeting a year, kind of similar to what Jeremy Tallman with GBAA explained, where we also have the more involved elections, etc.
Brian, you want to give it a shot?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, it's a little funky, but let's try it.
Okay, usually we have meetings monthly, and we'll incorporate meetings into an event so that we get to actually have fun. So either we'll have a scholarship event and then a meeting, or the meeting and then eat dinner, whatever, something like that. But it's usually once a month.
So along those lines, how does your individual chapters define a member? Because it's different for a couple of you. Is it that you come to one event? Is it if you just are an NAA member? Share with the group a little bit how you define membership.
If you pay dues.
And do you have local dues or the NAA membership?
It's $69 a year. So it's $100 a year because we actually pay NAA membership through our chapter and just in one big check. So it's $100 a year. So once you've paid or payment plan or whatever, then you're in. It's really difficult.
We have no. Did you want to go, Karen?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have. There's no formal dues or anything like that. We just suggest that you donate to the NAA. As long as you're kind of on our email list, you're considered a member. That's about it.
We work pretty similarly to that. We have 3 criteria for membership, which mostly includes being able to vote, which is being in the metro area, getting our email contacts or our networking contact, and coming to one event within the past 12 months. And we use that on a rolling basis. So, if we're having elections in September, it's September to September.
Our only requirement is that and this is a requirement in terms of voting and that kind of stuff, is that you're an NAA member. Obviously, we do have people that come to different events and things that don't pay, and then they do not vote on any of those things. So our only true membership is that they have to pay NAA dues.
UVAC does the same thing as Capital.
The CFAC does the same thing as the last Capital and the last 2.
And NCAC?
So to join NCAC, you have to pay your $31 donation, and then to stay active, you have to attend the 2 meetings held every year. And if you don't attend the meetings, or if you don't renew your NAA dues, you're considered inactive, and that basically means you just can't vote at the meetings. And should we have NCAC-only events, the inactive would not be able to attend. But we haven't had such events, so nothing to worry about.
Ryan, since you have an additional $69 kind of due structure on top of your 31 NAA membership, talk a little bit about what the benefits of that are, if there are any negatives, if you wouldn't mind just sharing with the group. Do you have your headphones? Sorry.
No. I have them, but for some reason the driver won't install. Yeah. It's my luck. So the $69 that we pay usually goes towards payments for fundraisers. So I don't have it on me, but at Nationals you will all be able to purchase a beautiful mug produced by SAC. And so to get the ball rolling to actually pay for those so that we can sell them, it goes to that. It goes to sending both the delegate and alternate to nationals, things along that line. It also helps pay for events. So if there's like a booking fee for a pavilion at a park or something, we'll use that. But it's really not been difficult for people to pay because we're usually pretty lenient on paying it. By pretty lenient, I mean really lenient. As long as it's in that year, it's not really a big deal. So.
Do any of you have any questions for Ryan, since they have kind of a separate, they do a dues structure? I'd love to know if there's any separate questions.
Yeah, I actually had one. We wanted to start out that route in the CFAC, but the biggest thing was trying to get a bank account. And do you guys have a bank account? And if you don't, how do you handle the funds?
Oh yeah, we have a bank account. We have a business account at a local credit union. All you have to do is get an employee identification number. Actually, one of our members is an accountant, so he handled all of that stuff for us, which was nice. But it wasn't any issue at all. We went to the IRS. They gave us an EIN, which is an employee identification number. Since we don't have employees, it doesn't really mean anything other than the IRS needs to track the account. But we've not had any problems with it. But yeah, we have a business account with checks and everything.
Have you found issues with? Yeah, have you found issues with alumni finding out, that they're in your area and then not being involved because they have to pay the dues?
No, because 99% of the people that how do I put this? The majority of people, actually everybody in our chat right now, is salons like a local one. They have dues. Most of the people that we saw in our area are actually no longer in our area, so don't have that issue alive yet. Is pay dues over the entire year. So it's not like it's $9 we're not in. It's more like, hey, did you tell the treasurer what you're gonna do when you pay? Yes. It's like, okay, well, so it's really hasn't been a big deal yet.
Ryan, hey, Ryan, hang on a second. You're breaking up pretty bad. I don't know if we caught any of that. Did anybody else catch it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, just since we're since it seems like maybe we're having some technical issues, if you would share either by email or later, just kind of type up kind of an answer to Jeremy's question. Would you be comfortable with that? We can share it around.
Can I ask a question?
Somebody will remind me to do that.
I'm making a mental note and also writing it down. And Kate, you had a question?
My question, which you can just answer also in that email, is whether the dues are tax deductible, since our NAA dues are tax deductible, if you have any connection with the national office through that.
Shorter answer is no, we are not tax deductible.
And that's actually an IRS thing. So it's not just Phi Sigma Pi, where Phi Sigma Pi has their 501c3, and it used to be you could kind of use that in a loose form to get a tax deductible donation, but the IRS is really kind of cracking down. We see it on a local alumni level through our university. You're really not supposed to kind of use it as a pass along. So that's why you'll see a lot of, even local, like I'm in Michigan State's alumni group here in Chicago, and we just filed for a separate 501c3 just because of the exact same thing. Cool. So the next question I have for you guys are, how do you recruit new members? It's a big, broad one. I'm not giving any Any details on that? Feel free to answer how you wish.
So for the CFAC, seeing a need past our initial founding for people dedicated to membership development, we modified our constitution to have one, if not two, membership development positions. It's open to be one or two depending on how many people apply and how voting goes. The goal of those membership development positions is to interface with the local chapters, right now the University of Central Florida, to work on the Florida chapters across the state and try to interact with their alumni chairs or the person within the undergraduate chapter that has ties to who's graduating and how their alumni relations work. And what we do is we either visit the chapters. Sometimes we go down to South Florida and Tampa. Sometimes we go to Orlando. Sometimes we'll do something like the FCU's Hayride, and we'll try to interface with chapters that way. When we were doing the regional conference down in University of Miami, we kind of talked with their local undergrads that way. So part of it is in-person outreach. Part of it is keeping in contact with the alumni chairs that are active each semester at the undergraduate chapters in our area. And we're trying to become a little more active on the PSP chapter talk group to promote during the timeframes when quarter schools or semester schools are getting close to graduating. Hey, is anyone coming down to the Orlando or Central Florida area and you're looking for something to do or looking for some brothers? Here we are. Here's our website and contact information. So that's what we've been trying to do, and it's pretty successful. The CFAC is primarily 50% non-UCF alumni, and we're based out of Orlando, and that's the only chapter within a 100-mile radius. It's pretty good.
Besides, I'll go. Besides those, which we do pretty much all of that, we have found that the communication with the undergrads around us tends to be not just recruiting for our chapter, but recruiting for alumni activity, because a lot of them, there's a weird, either you live in the city and hang out in the city, or you live outside the city and hang out outside of the city. It's hard sometimes to get people to cross those rivers. But besides that, we also reach out to the national office and send blasts out that way through them for anyone within the zillion zip codes in the area. And then we rely a lot on the connections that we have with other alumni, especially other alumni who connect us with people. A lot of our membership comes from that. Somebody, for instance, emailing Karen and saying, I'm moving to New York, do you know anyone there? And then they connect us. And we have a really amazing recruitment coordinator who then does individual personal outreach to everyone that joins our Facebook group, everyone that emails us. It's a little insane how much he does, and it's amazing.
Actually, to kind of piggyback off a little bit of what Kate said, I'd probably echo that we do very similar things. A lot of it's word of mouth. I get emails even from nationals being like, hey, this person's moving to your area and they want to connect. We definitely reach out to our undergraduate chapters, and it's very nice because they're all almost within a metro ride of us for the most part, except for one chapter. So we've really tried to funnel those connections, although I found that not a lot of people end up staying in the area, but we do build that alumni relationship, and hopefully if they are moving to another area where there's an alumni chapter, we hook them up that way. And I think one of the things that Capital is working to do a lot better is once that initial contact is made is how we follow up. We don't have a position of a recruitment coordinator. That doesn't fall on one person, but we've tried to work out some sort of buddy system, so we've asked for volunteers to kind of be their buddy to reach out and try to get them to come. We've had moderate success. It's something we're still working on. We'd love more ideas about that, actually. And so we might get some success with that, or we see someone at one event and then we never see them again. So we're trying to that's also kind of our struggle in terms of recruitment, is how to do a better job of that. So we're trialing this buddy system as well.
Who else? Chris or Kristen or Jeremy or Ryan?
So for
Yeah, sorry. Everyone else covered pretty much exactly what we do. We have a lot of the same difficulties. It's all word of mouth. We go out to local chapters events. The regional conference, we have an alumni panel every year, so that's really helpful where, they kind of get to see us all together, like, oh, hey, there's this alumni group that is right here, and when I graduate, I'm going to be one of them, and then I can be on the panel, and it'll be great. So there's that, but yeah, another problem that we have is similar to Capital Chapter, where someone will reach out to me, and I'll give them all of our information, and then we don't ever hear from them again. So I think if we implement the buddy system as well, that would be really great. And thank you so much for bringing that up. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so at GBAA, we kind of do the same thing. We reach out at NERC every year, talk to them, hopefully try to recruit some of them if they're going to be in the area. A couple of years ago, we also went to UMass and talked directly to the chapter about what we do at GBAA and how you can stay active in the NAA. We're also in the process of coming up with a survey to send out to GBAA to try to figure out what they want from the Alumni Association. So hopefully that'll help us tailor some of our events and kind of tailor to what the rest of the association wants out of us. So I can kind of share what we have for questions once we have that finalized. Maybe you guys can pass that along to your chapters too.
That'd be great. Thanks.
I would get in trouble if I didn't also mention we've developed a brochure that we give to anyone that we see, and we have 2 yearly recruitment events. We have a scavenger hunt that gets a lot of people to come, even if they're other chapter members and or members of other chapters, and an ice cream social every year.
We've also developed a welcome letter that I send to everybody, and we can probably share documents or something afterwards, and I can show you guys what that is. So I send that out and gives information about our chapter and how to join. And the other thing that we've been trying to do a better job of is doing a lot more social media. We finally have a Twitter account, Facebook, we're getting an Instagram, all that stuff, which is how people seem to be communicating these days. We're trying to do a better job of that.
All right, we've tried a few different items with limited success. We have social media, so far no hits. We have a few alumni who have moved to the area who have reached out to the national office to get in touch with the local alumni chapter. We've reached out to them, no response. We don't have a lot of success at the regional conference. Our first year at the conference, we were supposed to be added to the agenda. The chapter forgot, so we weren't added. And then this year the conference was canceled. And so far the conference has been our only venue to reach out with the local chapters. Aside from the chapter that's in this city, the closest chapter is about an hour and a half away. So we don't have alumni that are able to visit the various chapters. So our recruitment success has been based off of word of mouth. We see alum at events and say, hey, why do you consider joining the alumni chapter? And surprisingly, that's been the one that works the best for us. But we would like to be more involved with the collegiate chapters outside of our conference.
So I think Chris brings up a good next question. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your experiences with the regional conferences. How have they been? What's been some challenges? What are some highlights? Feel free to kind of answer any or all.
I would say, having been the regional conference delegate for several years now, I think it's actually been very rewarding. I think some of the jobs that are required aren't always great for alumni, but still being able to be involved is, I think, very key. I think it has helped to really forge our relationship better with our undergraduate chapters, and I'm hoping, and we're starting to see that as these relationships with the collegiate chapters develop more, it is feeding a little bit more into both us and our alumni chapter as well as other alumni chapters. Like we've fed a couple people who are back moving up to New York, so they've already reached out to NIMAC. So I do feel it's very, very valuable to have the alumni involved, and I think that they should be involved in the regional conference. Sometimes the planning isn't always alumni focused, although I will say what we had this past year, a lot of the speakers and things revolved around getting a job, and we actually have several alumni searching for jobs and that kind of thing within our chapter, and so they actually found it very helpful. So I think the programming can span both collegiate and alumni.
Yeah, I think we had some pretty good success this year at NERC. I was involved with the planning meetings and kind of going through with all that. The event itself, it was a little disorganized given all the people that were there, but overall things went well. We had 3 speakers speak to them about various things, NAA and alumni associations and chapters, career advice, and then some talk about grad school, postdoc, things like that. So we kind of touched all the major bases of life after college or after undergrad, so I think it went pretty well.
Next.
I'll say, oh, no? Okay. I'll say that while I get super jazzed about the region conferences, a lot of NIMAC brothers tend to come for the alumni panels, which they come because they're on the panels, and the panels I think are really fantastic. We feel like we're helping, and I think that it's usually useful to the undergrads as well. I think because the conferences are generally geared toward the undergrads, NIMAC brothers don't tend to go to much else. They go for the panel, maybe stay for roundtables, and then go home. So it's, I'm sure we could do a better job, but at the same time, we've been around, so it doesn't really bother us if it's not as geared to us.
Josh or Kristen or...
I did not attend the regional conference this year, so all my feedback would be third party from the attendees and the. So I'd rather I would defer to their comments on that. So I'll duck out of this conversation.
I don't know if you attended, Kristen.
I did. I was also the delegate for the planning, and then it was super exciting as Kate was our region's regional volunteer. So that was pretty exciting. But I feel like the alumni panel, we've had the alumni panel now at both this past conference as well as the year before, and I feel like it's most helpful in just letting the undergrad chapters see who we are. What's really exciting is we had the alumni panel last year, and then at Nashville Conference, there were quite a few people from the local Philly undergrad chapters that were, national convention delegates or grand chapter delegates for their chapters, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Kristen, that's so exciting!" And I couldn't remember their faces, but it was exciting to see these people that remembered me and knew who I was, and I remember their faces but not their names. I swear I'm not completely a terrible person, but it was great to see that this made an impact. People remembered who we were, they remembered that we talked to them and stuff like that. So that was mostly the fact that it gave us exposure. Our group tends to go for either, like, the conference will be on a Saturday and a Sunday, so our group either goes for the day of the alumni panel and all of that day, or we actually have quite a few people that will go for both days because we're dedicated and awesome. But that's it.
Ryan, and then Chris, I know you kind of stimulated the conversation, so.
Oh, I'm not really sure how. Can you even hear me?
Yeah, it's a little choppy, but that's okay.
Yeah, that might have actually been me. Anyway, so SAC actually went to 2 regional conferences. We went to Dominion and Bluegrass. The cool thing we did at Bluegrass was we did I don't know what I want to call it. But we had I guess like an alumni workshop, and it was, we had several tables or stations set up, and each one was a different, I guess, concept. So, like, one of them was interview skills, the other one was how to write your resume and cover letter, personal finance, things like that. And that seemed to go over really, really well. All of the, yeah, Kate, it was really cool. 99% of the feedback we got from that was really positive. It was funny because it kind of just stemmed out of a conversation of, you know, alumni should do something at a regional conference, and it just kind of, between me and Jillian Carante, which I'm sure is a name you guys have all heard before, mainly because she's like the best fiance ever. We had a conversation of, you know, what could we do, and then it turned into, well, we have a lot more life experience per se than they do, so why don't we do something along that lines? And people seem to really enjoy it. I know I did interview skills, and we had a lot of questions. A lot of people seemed really interested. So that went really well. I don't really have a whole lot of negatives, but speaking of being at conferences all weekend long, SAC was at both conferences all weekend long, Friday night through Sunday morning. So I just want to put that out there. That's how we roll.
Do you have anything written up? I know Jillian sent me a bunch of notes, Ryan, but do you have anything formal written up on your topics or speaking points or anything that you could or would mind sharing with the group?
No.
Okay.
I'm not even sure if I remember all the stations we had. I remember mine and a few others. I could probably get something like that put together.
That'd be great.
Will you put that in the note with the other email that I'm supposed to send?
I'm making a note right now.
Thank you.
Sarah, and I don't know if this pertains because it sounds like most of us have had very positive experiences. I think the only confusion, I would say, more so than negative, was the role of the regional volunteer versus the delegate from the alumni chapter. And I don't think it was a problem. I think it worked very well for Capital to have both involved, and I think it's a great program, and I think a lot of regional conferences don't have alumni chapters nearby to support them, and I think it's very good. But I think there was some question from what I've heard about the role of those two and making sure. I think it's almost more just having people aware of what the role of each of them are, maybe. Okay. But that was the only feedback that I have kind of heard, and honestly, I don't even remember where I heard it. And I don't necessarily think it's a negative as much as just a confusion as to what the roles are.
So just sharing maybe with national staff as they roll out that program for the upcoming school year, just providing maybe a little more clarity to the regional volunteers on kind of what their role is in conjunction with the alumni participants that are already kind of in that region.
Yes, I think that would be very helpful. And it's probably a small minority, but that might be helpful.
Great. That's terrific. Thanks. I'll make sure to pass it along. And then, Chris, did you have anything to add on, you know, Eastern North Carolina's interaction with the regional conference?
So the first year planning went great. I don't mean to brag, but Mark did win that year. But this year the conference didn't take place for things that were out of hand. Well, nothing too crazy. You guys may have heard, waivers, whatnot. We had a good interaction with our regional volunteer. I'm not sure what the feedback is from the undergrads about the role of the alumni for this year's conference, but the year prior, alumni involvement was great.
Terrific. So switching gears just a little bit, what would you say is your biggest challenge as an alumni chapter? Feel free to ponder. You're all pondering.
Recruitment.
Like all of your faces.
Ours is recruitment by far. Because, well, we keep messaging people and nobody messages us back, which is what, like, I think in between coming in and out is what everybody else thinks. I think, my chapter is actually fun, and I know for us it's not nearly as, I don't want to say pretentious, but it's not nearly as complicated or fee-ridden as undergrad is. So I think some of that, like having to attend so many events or get so many points, I think some people take that and it bleeds over, and they think that that's how an alumni chapter is going to be, and ours is nothing at all like that whatsoever. So.
We have a big issue. Oh, I'm muted. Never mind. Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Why did it tell me that, Google Plus? All right. So I think my chapter has a really big issue where we have a lot of chapters directly nearby. I mean, Pennsylvania has the largest concentration of undergraduate chapters, and yet we still have this huge recruitment problem. And from what I've talked to when I actually talk to undergraduate chapters and people that are graduating, is a lot of the alumni go, well, I'm graduating from this chapter, and that's where all of my friends are, so I'm just going to hang out with them and do events with the undergrad chapter. And they don't necessarily want to join a whole group of new people. So, like, a lot of people that join our chapter are either people like me that moved from a completely different area and thus want to stay involved with Phi Sigma Pi, and this is how, or people that just are super involved in every possible way, and so they want to stay involved with their undergrad chapter, and they also want to join the alumni chapter, like Jackie Parecka and John Finnegan and those people where they're like the Uber brother. So, like, it's just finding the ability to get the people that just want to hang out with their undergrad chapter as alumni to branch out to us. But yeah.
I think our challenge, I mean, we have a recruitment challenge because there are so many brothers in New York, and a lot of them aren't coming out to stuff. You know, they're not involved with us. So, but we're lucky enough that there are so many brothers in New York that we have so many people in our chapter. And by that I mean there's like 30 people usually in a year that come to stuff pretty regularly. Part of the way that we do that is we have a lot of events. And we try to have a good number of events so that if you can't make one, you make the other, and it's not that big a deal, and there's lots of opportunities. And I think that the challenge we have is scheduling those while also not going too overboard, because the e-board can only do so much and brothers can only come to so much. So we don't want to overprogram, but at the same time we want to have plenty of opportunities for people to do stuff. We also, last thing, we also have issues a little bit with service, and I don't know if this is true of the other chapters in big metro areas, but it's hard to get service opportunities that aren't for one person or giant groups. So if there's like 6 of us, where in the last, the soup kitchen doesn't want us, or the, food bank or whatever, they have the entire Chase corporate coming, they don't need 6 of us. And so we're in, like, we have to wait a long time, or we have to try to do things during days when a lot of people are at work, and that's a big challenge that we have too.
I would second that. We have run into that. We've had to get a little bit more creative. We try to do big days where, like, the whole city is doing service days, and we found more success with that. We've also just tried to reach out to places and smaller things that we have connections at. So we have a brother that works for Bread for the City, which is does a bunch of things, and so she's been able to finagle things that involve anywhere from 4 to 8 people, so we've been more successful that way. But definitely service is our hardest to plan and our least attended, I've noticed. So that's also probably a struggle for us, and I think I would probably echo recruitment as well. I would echo Kristen that the majority of our brothers are from chapters that aren't local, that are looking for some other connection. I'm hoping that our involvement with our collegiate chapters and really getting on campus will help in trying to feed them into the alumni chapter, and I'm seeing some of that now. So hopefully in the years to come, as we start to be more and more active, we're doing joint events with our collegiate chapters, inviting them to some of our events as well. Hey, we're going to the zoo. Do you want to come? Those type of events that don't have any risk management involved, really trying to get them more involved that way. I don't know. We're only kind of somewhat successful with that. But those are my 2 suggestions for you guys, but those are also things that we struggle with.
In the CFAC, we're pretty much along the same lines. Recruitment is the issue, and that's why we try to dedicate multiple resources to working towards those. We do not have the fortunate or unfortunate circumstance, depending on your position, of having multiple chapters in the local area. We might have more than one in the local area. We'll see how that goes in the fall semester. But for now, just UCF. So we have a lot of alumni that come to Orlando, and sometimes the 2 recruitment issues we see, we have a lot of people that come into Orlando that are established in their lives, in their 30s or 40s, already in a career path, already have families, and getting them out to events is a little bit hard. No matter what the event is, it can be as family friendly as possible, or it can be just fun and fancy free, and they just tend not to show up. And they're usually brothers that have been large donors in the past and have been very active in the past. So that's part of what we see. On the charity side, or the service side, I'm part of a advisory board for a charity, and we get a lot of our events from that or other local areas. Orlando's big, but obviously not as big as the north, many of the places in the Northeast. So charity events, we can do Ronald McDonald House, and they don't care if it's 1 person, 5 people, or 10 people. If you're providing a meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner to those in need at the Ronald McDonald House, they'll take you. Not sure if that's that type of organization works in, say, Chicago or DC or New York, no matter your size, but that seems to be big here. A lot of the local stuff, a lot of the Ronald McDonald houses, that works for us. But yeah, recruitment across the board, recruitment, and sometimes attending events. Sometimes we feel we do so many events that maybe anyone could show up, so maybe it isn't rare enough. So maybe we've discussed having less events or keeping the same, but attendance events and recruitment are 2 major issues.
Our big issue has kind of been retention in some respects. Like, we'll get brothers that'll come out to 1 meeting and then they'll kind of like disappear. They won't come back. But since we've moved to since we've moved to monthly dinners, we've kind of seemed to been able to draw back more brothers each month. So it's kind of brought up our attendance at our events, and hopefully that'll continue to grow.
Regarding the service issue, one thing that NIMAC has started doing is thinking outside the box as much as possible. I know that DC does some of this as well, Capital does, but one of the, we had a event where we made cards for birthday cards and stuff for people living in senior citizen homes, and it was kind of just going to somebody's apartment, hanging out, and also doing the service event. So not relying on some of the bigger things, when we don't have something like the New York Cares Day, which is the entire community, not relying on some place that has room for just 6 people, that's really helped us.
So I think, who haven't we heard from? Chris on that topic? Did everybody else? talk about their biggest challenge? I lost track. Sorry.
All right, for NCAC, we have a few different challenges. One of them is connecting with the collegiate chapters. Outside of MARC, we really don't have any connection, so we rely heavily on that, so hopefully we'll have one next year. Our other challenge has been planning events and getting alumni interested in attending them and actually showing up. We as EC will plan events, and we'll be pretty much the only ones who show up. So we like to see more than just the same faces over and over again. Not that they're not great, but we like to see more.
A couple of you, there's a side conversation about family events, and the reps from MTAC couldn't join us, but I thought I'd share one of the stories that they shared at Alumni Convention. So they remain very close with they remain very close with their local collegiate chapter, and their chapter was in need of a fundraiser to raise money somehow for their local chapter, and they actually came to MTAC and said, you guys need babysitters, we need money, we will volunteer, if you have one big event that whether it's a wine tasting or something like that coming up, we'll watch the kids and it'll be a fundraiser for the chapter. So, it's MTAC kind of raved about it because they trust the undergrads so much with their kids. They ended up having it at, I think they said 3 different alumni homes in the area, and I guess it went really well. So it's, it might be something to consider if you do have a really good, close relationship with maybe some undergrads or even some of the local brothers if they're, inclined to babysit as opposed to participate in the event. So. So in terms of, I have one more question and then I'll open it up for you guys. We only have about 9 minutes left. If you had one piece of advice to someone like Jeremy who has an alumni association that's not a chapter, what's your one piece of advice you could share in terms of going about the process of starting a chapter?
Since CFAC is relatively young, we happen to kind of be in that same process. We had a Central Florida Alumni Association a while back, and that just kind of dissolved over time. And when we decided to bring up the fraternity to the National Council to propose to be a chapter, the biggest things we did was we took the roles and information that was provided to us by the national staff, and did some pretty intense marketing. So if I were to do this again, kind of be an association, dissolve, and then start up a chapter, I definitely gather as much knowledge and information as you can from the staff of the local people in your area. I'd find out what the contact, if you can, find out what the contact preferences are. Send out emails, do phone calls. If you have a bit of a budget, maybe do grab some stamps and do an actual paper, letter to what the staff has available, and start pushing the local undergraduate chapters with information and just advertise that a chapter wants to start up. We might have been lucky. Our first run of that, we got about 15 people right off the bat, and everyone wanted to start up. So we might have just gotten that lucky groove of a lot of people graduating from undergraduates, a lot of alumni wanted to get together, and bam, we were pretty well off in about 3 months. But I definitely lean on the staff resources that are available to gather as much information to market as possible.
Before we jump in, do you mind if I jump in really quick? So just an update, and Chris kind of heard this from the council meeting. One of the elements of the revised alumni expansion plan that we just passed is that we're really doing exactly kind of what Josh just talked about, in that when there is a new alumni group that has interest in forming, we're going to treat an association like a colony. So it'll be a colonization process that can last anywhere from 3 to 12 months, and there's some wiggle room in there. But the general concept of it is we have seen that alumni associations, with the exception really of GBAA, they kind of fizzle, right? So if someone moves, if someone that started it moved, it seems to be really hard to have traction because there's not as many requirements. And not that alumni chapters have a ton of requirements, but there's a bit more structure, quote unquote, for a chapter. So we're really going to look at moving an association more along the lines of why it was originally started, kind of that colonization process, and then having that chapter petition after about anywhere from 3 to 12 months. So we'll get all of you a copy of the expansion plan so you can take a look at it. The other thing that we passed at the council meeting was an alumni chapter toolkit. So I know all of you kind of went through a process of, or at least the more recent ones of, all right, what do I need to do? Who am I supposed to be contacting? What form am I supposed to use? Do you have sample bylaws? And Suzanne probably sent you an email with like 8 attachments. So what we've done is consolidated those attachments into one document that gives a step-by-step walkthrough of, this is your first step. You get your list, you put something out on Facebook, you work with the national office. Your second step, petition for association status, hold a meet and greet, and kind of walks you through that process so that it's a lot easier to understand and know kind of the timeline that you should expect, just to kind of provide some clarity. So that was one of my objectives when I started the term, and I'm excited it's done. So, and I'll share it with all of you in the coming weeks or so. Does anybody else want to jump in on advice, or does anybody have any other questions they want to ask the group? We have about 4 minutes.
I can jump in with a little bit of advice for our group that's just getting ready to start up. I think the key that worked for us, we had a group of highly involved alumni get together and say, do we want an alumni chapter? We all agreed that we wanted to do it. So we typed up a good mission statement. This is what we plan on achieving. If you guys are interested, like, we'll need you on board. So we sent out our mission statement, and literally within a week, we had 32 signatures, 32 people who already joined the NAA. They were very excited to see that alumni chapter was coming back, and having a passionate group of people putting the effort forward got a lot of positive response.
Yeah, and I think, we have probably roughly 60 or so brothers on our list, and about 15 or so that are kind of in and out, throughout the year at our events. So I think we have, the requirements. Just there's 1 or 2 brothers that are active against becoming a chapter because they feel that the restrictions in the structure is just too much, and it's kind of a false idea in their head, I think. But they've been quite vocal about it, which has kind of hurt my cause in pushing us to becoming a chapter.
So related to that, kind of both of those, the mission statement thing has been really helpful for NIMAC as well. We have a pretty strong goal of giving alumni an opportunity to be involved and to meet people, whether it's involved on a national level or just meeting other brothers or having somebody to hang out with for dinner one night. And we're really, we sort of stick with that and giving, and that means that our structure tends to be pretty lax. We're not super structured except within the e-board, because that's what works best for us. And you got to do what's best for you. But for us, it's we just want to give people an opportunity to get involved in a service event so they don't have to look it up or meet new people when they move to New York from Florida, like I did. So that's sort of how we focus, and we keep it low stress that way.
I actually had a question, unless someone wants to continue this particular topic, and it's kind of been brought up a couple times at the CFAC. How do the other chapters deal with grand chapter registrations? Does the president or whoever is elected to be the delegate pay for it by themselves? Is there pooled money to pay for that delegate to get to grand chapter? How does it work on other chapters?
Currently, it is up to the delegates. However, we've done some fundraising events in the past where we do this for service things too. It's called Buy Around. So if we're out, we have a monthly happy hour. Instead of putting the money down that you would for your next drink, it goes in a pool. And so sometimes that money goes to charity, or sometimes we help towards the cause of the delegates. The other thing that we have reached out to is alumni who may have a higher standing who may be able to offer spots. So some of our alumni are at a giving level where they can actually offer spots to convention, and so they've been kind enough to do it sometimes to our alumni chapter, sometimes they give it to undergrads. It really varies, but kind of looking at what your resources are.
We thankfully have a good pool of people that are part of DVAC that just always go to convention and grand chapter. I mean, thankfully we have John Finnegan, which everyone knows, who has an award named after him for most conventions attended. So to be able to have a good core of people in your chapter like that just, they're going to be there anyway. So they're most of the time the people that we choose for grand chapter. In past years, it's always been another brother, Jackie, who she really enjoys being the grand chapter delegate. So she's always like, I don't want to take it from someone that really wants. We're like, Jackie, take it. It's fine. So like to be able to have those people that are already going to do it anyway, they fund it themselves. I know. Karen took our Jackie. It's very upsetting.
Darn those engagements and all that. Screws up alumni chapter membership. Jeremy, I don't know if you can see the comments, but I posted on there, just kind of going back to your kind of conversion from a alumni association to a chapter. Let us know if there's anything this group can do to help you communicate the value of moving to a chapter, and really share the idea that there's really not, what you guys are doing actually far surpasses what a chapter requires by having your dinners and all of that. So just let us know how we can help.
Okay, yeah. My thought is to, we have e-board elections coming up in August, so my thought is with the new incoming e-board to hopefully kind of start making that a plan for the upcoming year and kind of get the wheels in motion for that.
Great. So we're coming up, it's 8:01. I would love, am I still muted? No. If you have any thoughts on other topics you'd like to kind of cover with this group, you know, it doesn't have to be an hour. If it's something really specific topic-wise that you just want to do a 20-minute hangout, feel free to send those my way, and I can share with whoever our new VPAD is. The 3 candidates are on the call, so they also will know. But I just appreciate everybody taking the time today and getting on a little early, kind of getting everything squared away, and hopefully you found this valuable. Okay, awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. And if you need anything from me, you have me for another 4 weeks. But you can always send me a note or just ask me any questions that you have. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good. Oh,
everyone.
What, Josh?
I said thank you very much for everything you do, and bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.